Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Nebraska. Heading into 2025, that there are a lot of high expectations within this Nebraska fan base heading into the 2025 year. Now, the national media, the way they're going to talk about Nebraska going into 2025, they are going to point to year three under Matt Rhule. Historically, you see a lot of winning football wherever Matt Rhule has been year three running a program. Look, I'm not getting up here and saying that's not a reason to believe in Nebraska. I ain't going to look back at all that history and say that history is wrong. But what I am going to say is there's a lot more reasons to believe in this Nebraska team going into 2025 than just year three under Matt Rhule. I mean, you look at the offensive side of the football, you got a really talented quarterback that, was maybe a little bit inconsistent at times as a true freshman. Now going into year two, Dylan Raiola is going to get better at the quarterback position going into year two as a college football player, year two as a starter. You have significantly better weapons around him. I think you have a significantly better play caller in Dana Holgorsen coming in to take over this offense, which might be, like, to me, the biggest storyline for Nebraska on offense. And I think finally, the offensive line is in a spot where I think it's going to be the best unit that Nebraska has had under Matt Rhule, but it's also really deep. And we've seen at times during the first 2 years under Matt Rhule, the depth of the offensive line just not really be what it needs to be. I think you're finally there going into 2025. The offense has a lot of things that are kind of pushing it in the right direction, saying that this unit should be pretty good in 2025. Then you look to the defensive side of the football, and although you have probably more questions than you did 12 months ago about this Nebraska defense, replacing Tony White, replacing guys like Ty and Nash on the defensive line. You are a faster, more athletic unit. And this is something we talk about a lot in the offseason with Matt Rhule, what he's done on the recruiting trail, just collecting really fast football players, really big football players from an athleticism standpoint. I think this Nebraska team, specifically in the back end, they're better, they're faster, they're more athletic, which matters in this new era of the Big Ten, where you're not playing Big Ten West schedules. You're playing teams like a USC or a team like UCLA out on the West Coast. You need speed. You need to be able to operate in space on the defensive side of the football. And I do think Nebraska is a faster defense than they were in the 2024 year. So although you have some question marks about this Nebraska defense, you also feel pretty dang good about some of the aspects of this Nebraska defense as well. And then you look at the schedule, and I think this is what I want to get into is how does this schedule shake out for Nebraska? A couple of things that jump out to me right away. One, you avoid, I think, the clear two best teams in the Big Ten in Ohio State and Oregon. I think you have a lot of comfortable wins on this schedule that, ideally can allow Nebraska to continue to gain confidence as a winning football program, which is something we've talked about over the last 24 months. And Matt Rhule talks about a lot too. Hey, we gotta get used to winning, are kind of the words that Matt Rhule likes to use. And you only have one game on your schedule that you just don't feel good about. That's going on the road late November to a Penn State team that I expect to be very good. Now, I want to get into how this schedule shakes out, talk about some of these key football games that we're looking at. Before we do, and as always, to the Nebraska fans, one, let it fly in the comments section. Most importantly, I'd like to hear the expectations that the Nebraska fans have for this program going into 2025. I'm still trying to figure out my expectations for this football team. I think the best way to figure that out is, hey, how are the Nebraska fans feeling about this program? Let it fly in the comment section. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. To the Nebraska fans, appreciate you guys. Many of y'all been rocking with the fellas for a very long time. Appreciate it. Without further ado, let's get into it now. Look, I think one of the things you want to talk about is consistency, which should get better. Year three under Matt Rhule, you don't have a freshman quarterback anymore, which is inherently going to make you a little bit more of a consistent football team. You go back to last year. I mean, you go to Columbus, play a really good Ohio State team, and you outplay them for 3.5 quarters. You lose the game, but then you go home and play UCLA, a team that you should beat by 2 touchdowns, and lose that football game. I think to start off our conversation around this schedule, hey, we got to win the games we're supposed to win. And that starts with Cincinnati neutral site, Arrowhead Stadium, Akron, Houston Christian. Nebraska should start off 3-0. You circle that Michigan game. And many of y'all know I'm a Michigan fan. I highlighted it in purple for Michigan as well. I think there will probably be a lot of people who are casual college football fans looking at that matchup and expect Michigan to win it. You look at this matchup, and there's a very good shot that Michigan has a true freshman quarterback that's going on the road to Lincoln, Nebraska, a stadium that I have been to watch a Michigan game. Very difficult place to play. If you are Nebraska, you're looking to win this football game when you kind of take into account that Michigan is probably going to have a true freshman quarterback starting in a second row game of his career. That's a game that you want to circle. I'm not getting up here and saying Nebraska is going to win that football game, but if you're a Nebraska fan, especially with the quarterback that Michigan might be trotting out there, you think you can put yourself in a spot to win that football game, which would be massive going into a bye week where you get Michigan State at home, should be a win. You go on the road to a Maryland team that I personally do not think is very good. And then you go on the road to Minnesota, which is another one of those games that, hey, if Nebraska is going to get over the hump, you got to start winning those football games. I think Nebraska is a better team than Minnesota. You got a lot of question marks about what Minnesota is going to look like specifically at quarterback. Those are the games that if you want to get over the hump, you got to consistently start winning. And the way I look at it, if you can win, as much as it hurts me to say, if you can win that Michigan game late in September, ride that momentum going on the road to play Minnesota, that's big because you're probably beating Northwestern at home. And then you get USC going halfway across the country to come play you in Lincoln, Nebraska in the month of November. The early portion of the schedule is big because if Nebraska can start to roll and kind of gain some momentum, that's what we're looking for from this football team. Now, you look at USC, this is a team that I think could really look different come the end of the spring transfer portal window. They're doing some really good things from a personnel department stuff. They're doing I think they might have a very, very good next couple of weeks in the spring transfer portal window. It's one of those teams that we're still learning a lot about going into 2025. But if you're Nebraska, getting this USC team at home, you like your shot. You go on the road to play UCLA. Again, you're going on the road to the state of California. This Nebraska team is bigger, stronger, faster. You get your bye week before you go on the road to play Penn State. Love the bye week there. If you are a 1 or 2 loss football team going into your bye week, getting ready to go on the road to Penn State, a lot of buzz around that football game. You get a chance to get healthy. You get a chance to get an extra week of preparation. I ain't going to get up here and say Nebraska is going to go out and win that football game in Happy Valley late November. But I do think that game could be fun. And then Iowa to finish out. This is a game. This game and on the road at Minnesota are those two games that, look, if Nebraska wants to take the next step, you got to start winning these football games. I mean, the last 2 years Nebraska has played Iowa. They've outplayed Iowa, especially in that 2024 game. Now you got to figure out a way to win a football game against Iowa that, is historically really good at mucking up games and winning them late. You get them at home. This is another game that you got to win if you're Matt Rhule in Nebraska going into year 3. The schedule shapes up good. There's a lot of games that if you play consistent, solid football, you should be winning pretty handily. And you don't play Oregon. You don't play Ohio State. The only really tough game that it's hard to favor Nebraska, and as we sit right now, is going on the road to Penn State. Other than that, Nebraska should be in a lot of those football games, and now the conversations, hey, can we go close it out in the fourth quarter? A lot of reason to believe in Nebraska going into the 2025 year. Will they put it together? We'll see. We're going to hold off on the official record prediction until we see spring ball play out, until we see the spring transfer portal window play out, of which I expect Nebraska to continue to try to make moves to address some of their question marks, specifically on the defensive side of the football. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Much more importantly, let it fly in the comment section in terms of expectations. I would love to hear from the Nebraska fans. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.